The party was loud, crowded, and filled with that fake kind of laughter people only used when they were trying to impress someone. My wife Emily was in her element. Glittering dress, perfect hair, and that smirk that could disarm anyone in the room. But tonight her smirk wasn't just playful. It was a challenge. She leaned toward her friends loud enough for me to hear and said, "If I had a choice, I'd choose someone else." The words hit me like a cold gust of wind, sharp and unexpected. It wasn't the first time she had made remarks like that in front of others, but something about the way she said it, half laughing, half serious, made it worse. It was a jab, a test, a way to see if I would react. I didn't. I kept my glass in hand, my posture relaxed, my eyes on her. The smile on my face was calm, almost casual, but behind it my mind was working. She expected me to fume. She expected me to raise my voice, to sputter, to feel small. She wanted a reaction. Her friends laughed nervously, glancing at me, unsure how far she was serious or joking. I took a slow sip from my drink, let the silence stretch, let the moment sit heavy in the air. Emily noticed. Her eyes flicked to mine, and for the first time that night, she hesitated. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to explain herself, or retract the words, but she didn't. She was stunned by the calm, the lack of response, the subtle confidence I was radiating. I leaned in slightly, just enough for her to feel my presence. My voice was quiet, controlled, carrying just enough weight to break through the chatter around us. "Is that what you really think?" I asked softly, almost conversationally. Her smile faltered. The smirk wavered. She opened her mouth, paused, and then closed it again. Around us, the party carried on, oblivious to the small earthquake that had just occurred between us. I didn't need to say more. I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to beg for her to take back what she said. Because my look, the one I gave her, spoke louder than any words ever could. It was the look that said, "I see you. I know what you're doing. And I'm not reacting the way you expect." Emily froze. She knew it. And in that moment the balance shifted. The rest of the room faded into background noise. Emily's friends were still chatting and laughing, but I wasn't listening. I was watching her, her reaction, her subtle adjustments, the way her confidence faltered when she realized her joke hadn't landed the way she expected. Her eyes darted away briefly, then back at me, searching for a crack, a weakness. But I stayed calm, composed. I didn't frown. I didn't smile too widely. I simply let my gaze hold hers, steady and unwavering. She tried again, softer this time, almost like she was testing the waters. "I was just joking." I nodded slowly, letting the silence between my words hang. "Of course. Jokes are harmless, aren't they?" My voice was casual, but there was an edge she couldn't ignore. Emily's jaw tightened. She wasn't used to this. She was used to me reacting immediately, apologizing, laughing it off, or trying to smooth things over. Tonight, none of that was happening. Tonight I wasn't playing her game. Her friend, Clara, leaned in, whispering something that made Emily laugh nervously. But I didn't look at Clara. My eyes stayed on Emily. I wanted her to feel the weight of the moment, the fact that I had noticed, I had understood, and I was not impressed. Emily's hand reached for her glass, shaking slightly. She tried to regain her composure, to act like nothing had happened, but it was too late. I could see it in her expression, the brief flicker of doubt, the realization that she no longer held the silent control she had assumed. I took a slow breath, letting my calm confidence fill the space. Then I leaned slightly closer and said, quietly but firmly, "I'm not impressed by jokes at my expense, Emily. And I'm not the person who will react the way you expect." She swallowed, a small hitch in her breath betraying her carefully constructed facade. The smirk that had once been so natural on her face had vanished, replaced by something closer to unease. She hadn't anticipated this. She hadn't expected me to respond with clarity, with quiet authority. The room continued its chatter, oblivious to the small earthquake between us. But Emily felt it. I knew she felt it. And then from across the room her sister Rachel caught my eye. She had been watching the entire interaction, silently, with a knowing expression. I gave her a small nod. It wasn't a gesture of alliance, just acknowledgement that she had seen it too. Emily noticed. Her eyes flicked between me and Rachel, and for the first time that evening, she seemed unsure of herself. The balance had shifted, and the party, loud and chaotic as it was, had just become a place where Emily realized she no longer had full control. Emily's lips pressed together tightly, a subtle quiver betraying her attempt at composure. She had thought her little joke would rattle me, get a reaction, maybe even embarrass me in front of her friends. But instead I had remained calm, confident and unshaken. Her hand rested on her glass, still trembling slightly. I could see her calculating her next move, whether to escalate, to deflect or to retreat, but none of her usual tactics would work tonight. She had assumed I would beg, fume or grovel. I did none of those things. I took a deliberate sip from my drink, letting my eyes meet hers. "Go ahead, Emily," I said softly. "Say whatever you want. Your jokes, your games, they won't change who I am, or how I see this relationship." She blinked, startled by the calm authority in my voice. The smirk she had relied on for so long had vanished, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. Her friends glanced between us, sensing the tension, but unsure of what had happened. Only Rachel, her sister, seemed to understand the full weight of the moment. Rachel's expression was careful but approving. She didn't say anything, only gave me a subtle nod. A silent acknowledgement that tonight, I had taken back control. Emily noticed it too, and the realization seemed to make her shift slightly on her heels. Emily's voice finally came, quiet and measured. You're not reacting." I shook my head slowly. "No, Emily. I'm not reacting the way you expected. And that's the point. I see you. I understand what you're trying to do. And I refused to play along." Her eyes widened, scanning the room as if looking for some invisible backup, some invisible advantage she could use. There was none. For the first time in a long while, she was exposed, stripped of her confidence, left to face the reality that I wasn't going to let her manipulate or test me anymore. The party continued, unaware of the quiet confrontation that had just taken place. But Emily felt it. Rachel felt it. And most importantly, I felt it. I took another step back, relaxed my posture, and allowed a small, calm smile. "Enjoy the party, Emily," I said, my voice carrying over the chatter. "But remember, some things aren't jokes, and some boundaries aren't yours to cross." Her face went pale. She had finally understood that tonight, I wasn't the same man she had always relied on to bend around her whims. And in that moment, standing amid the noise and laughter, I felt a quiet triumph, not in victory, but in the clarity and control I had reclaimed. The balance had shifted, and Emily, for the first time, knew that I had the power. Not her words, not her smirk, not her games, to define what mattered between us.